Guys, welcome back to my channel. From this video I am covering a novel named, My Wife is Actually the Asura Empress. This is one my favorite novel I have ever read. Now without wasting time, let's dive into the story. Hey look, that's the adopted son of the Havenglow family. What is he doing here? Wasn't he in Varus City for his engagement with the young miss of the Milan family? Didn't you hear that he was rejected by her father because he has no innate talent? I wonder why the Havenglow family adopted this trash then. Rio was walking toward the auditorium for the first day of his school. He was hearing such harsh comments since he had come back from Varus City, but it didn't affect him much. He was a very good-looking young boy. A single gaze at him would make the innocent hearts of the young maiden beat frantically. He had crimson-colored hair and had sea-green eyes while his eyebrows were sword-like. He was 184 centimeters, taller than many of the students around him. He took a seat in the last row of the auditorium. It was almost full since he came late, but the headmaster still hadn't arrived. Students were wearing their gray uniforms and waiting for the headmaster. A few minutes later, a gray-haired elderly man appeared. He had a mustache that curved down around both sides of his mouth and connected to his beard, which only covered his chin. Almost like a French-cut beard walked onto the stage. His neatly styled hair was slick with a light shimmer. He seemed to be someone very powerful with a unique aura. He didn't use a mic and boosted his voice using mana so it would sound all around the auditorium. Today is the day you will all be sent to the land of Asuras for the first time in your life. You have joined the military school. As you all know, it became necessary to start your 3 years of training before you become part of society. As the Dovrix race invaded our planet 200 years ago, we had no choice but to fight them. Our strength paled in comparison and we lost even though we were greater in numbers. However, our scientists made a breakthrough in technology and we were able to build a portal that led us to the land of Asuras, which gave us the strength to contend against the Dovrix race as we found the magical beasts that gave us powerful skills. Dovrix race had taken over 1/3 of the Earth's region and they would have expanded their borders if we didn't find this treasure land that allowed our strength to grow. Because of the land of Asuras we were able to stop the Dovrix race from taking over our Earth. But, we are barely equal to them in strength and we don't know their true strength. They might start a war again, so we need to be prepared. To save humanity, and not let them steal more from us, we need the power to face them. So we will give you training that will help you grow and help the human race fight against the Dovrix race. Students started whispering to themselves as they heard that humans were still barely equal to them. They grew up thinking that the human race had already surpassed the Dovrix race, but they were kept in the dark. Headmaster continued, "Today, you all will go through the portal and become familiar with the land of Asuras. You don't have to fight beasts or monsters there before your classes start, that is in 1 month. You just need to get used to that place and report to us if you have been teleported to our nearby shelters. We will try our best to assign you a superior in your shelters even if you're teleported to a faraway one. We will contact their headquarters and ask them to assist you. Why are they not telling us about the shelters that are under the Asuras? I heard they have taken control of a few of our shelters. They make those of us slaves who teleport there unluckily. They know that if we knew, most of us would run away, but the government didn't give us a choice. We would be breaking the law if we don't do as the headmaster says. Isn't this same as becoming a slave of government instead of the slave of Dovrix?" Headmaster had a good hearing, but he ignored these comments as it was the same every year. He further added, "If you don't have your AI watches, then collect them from the school office and head to the portal area. Make sure to report to us after you return from your journey. Good luck to all of you." Saying that, the headmaster walked out of the auditorium. Rio looked at his AI watch given by his new mother and thought inwardly, "I still can't understand what ulterior motive that lady had to adopt someone like me." He started walking towards the portal that was situated at the gate of the school. There were 2 guards at the entrance of the portal. They saw his school card and let him enter the portal. The portal was like a medicine capsule with a silver-painted door and AI installed. He went inside and felt that it was very comfortable. But there was nothing inside and only one person was allowed to use the portal at a time. He tapped his watch that rang with some notification sounds and synced with the portal as its door closed. A text appeared on the screen of the AI watch with the letters, "Teleport." Rio tapped it and his body was drowned in white light. He felt as if the ground was ascending, but the blinding white light didn't let him see anything. After a few seconds passed, the portal door opened and he stepped out of it. But what he saw in front of him had turned his mind upside down. There was a big magic circle below the portal capsule and it was situated in a white hall that was big enough to cover 10 houses of a peasant family. 8 middle-aged men and 3 women in their 30s were standing around it. 2 things they had in common were the color of their eyes, which was red, and the uniform they were wearing, which was blue with purple lines that went vertically down. They were all looking at Rio as if he was their new slaughtering lamb. He could see pity in some of their eyes, but 3 of the men had mocking smiles on their faces as if thinking about what would happen with this new human. Their eyes are red and they are wearing the uniform of the Asura race. His heartbeat started thumping when he understood what happened. All newest chapters on Velby.com. He instantly ran back to the portal and started tapping his watch so he could return to Earth. About this, I believe the same, but good and evil are present everywhere. Not all humans are bad, and not all asuras are good. Some good people are forced to do evil things for their survival. As you know, the Dovrix race invaded Earth, and humans were forced to come here for survival as they are weak against the Dovrix race. Rio said as a matter of factly, "Don't you fear I'll kill you if you take the side of humans in front of us?" A sweet melody voice came from beside. Leo was smiling at him coldly with her beautiful red eyes. "I already know I'm a dead man the moment I was teleported here. Will you spare my life if I show you fear?" Rio looked back into her eyes, which made her grit her teeth and clench her fist. "Leah, don't scare him, he is not entirely wrong with his words." The Emperor turned to look at his daughter. His eyes moved to Rio and he continued, "Listen, boy, I'll go straight to the point. I needed someone who could inherit my powers and you're the perfect candidate for it." Dylan said with a severe voice. "Why would you pass down your power to someone from the human race whom you consider an enemy?" Rio asked, with puzzlement. "Because it can only be inherited by someone who was born with no innate talents. We investigated some human prisoners who were teleported here. They told us that 60% of human children are born with no innate talents. Among that 60%, most of them don't even get their AI watch as they want to pursue a different career. The remaining humans, who choose to come to this land, have many other shelters where they can get sent away. We rarely get a human prisoner, and the one that is around her age without any innate talent, you're fortunately the first one. So that solves my problem. So will you inherit my powers?" Dylan explained. "This can't be a coincidence. The prophecy said the boy would have his hair color the same as the shade of love, blood, and death. I can't believe his words came true." He thought inwardly as a mysterious glint flickered in his eyes. Dylan was thinking about the prophecy that came true. He didn't want to reveal it so early when the Emperor didn't even believe such things. But it was told by his old man and he wanted only the well-being of his daughter, so Dylan was left with no choice. "Don't you think that after you pass down the power I'll use it against you and your daughter?" he asked with a questioning glint in his eyes. "Are you provoking me on purpose?" Leah spoke with murderous intent. The temperature in the room lowered. "When I will pass down the powers I'll also make you marry my daughter, and the marriage includes you to be bound in the oath. It won't let you go against both of us, and if you do your body and soul will shatter into nothingness." The Emperor explained sweetly as if he was telling his soon-to-be son-in-law how much he loves him. Rio swallowed nervously and sat down on the floor. "What happened? Are you scared of dying or you're scared of becoming a traitor of the human race?" Leah asked amusingly. "No, not that." Rio shook his head and he was still dazed. "Then what is it?" Dylan asked this time as he was also puzzled. "I cannot believe that I would be marrying the most beautiful girl living in the current time," Rio spoke as he was still lost in his thoughts. "Stupid." Leah mocked him while her heart fluttered hearing someone praise her on her face. People feared her so much that no one dared to speak openly as their life was valuable. They didn't want to risk their life by misspeaking and fanning the wrath of the Asura's emperor. "You don't look like that would be happy just because you're marrying a pretty girl after giving your heroic speech on humanity and good or evil. What's your reason behind it?" Dylan asked with curious eyes as he figured out this boy was not that simple. "Last night, the girl's father rejected me saying that I have no innate talent and I'm not worthy of her." Rio smiled while speaking each word. A realization struck both father and daughter. They gazed at the boy on the floor. "That explains why you were dazed. But do you agree to inherit my powers?" Dylan spoke to him to probe if he would agree without force or not. "I have 4 conditions," Rio spoke as if he was thought of such conditions long ago, but he had made it on the spot. "Are you so tired of living that you're asking us to agree to your conditions? Who do you think you are?" Leah glared at him. "LAA test novels on Ovalby.com. I think I'm your future husband." Rio chuckled. "You?" Leah found this boy annoying. "Okay, tell me what's your condition. As long as it's fair enough I'll fulfill it," Dylan agreed with a bittersweet smile. First condition is that I'll not kill a human without a fair reason. Rio spoke about his first condition and he knew they would have a problem with this. Have you not gone to military school yet, kid? Dylan asked. How do you know? Rio asked while scrunching his eyebrows in surprise. Your lack of knowledge explains it. When the human scientists set up their portal, they linked it to those devices on your wrist that you call an AI watch. Whenever a person is about to die in this land, the security mechanism automatically activates and their bodies get teleported out of here and they cannot enter our world for a month to 3 months, depending on the damage dealt on them. Humans set up this safety mechanism so their strong warriors don't become the meal of beasts. Dylan explained as it was his favorite subject to research in the human way of life. He would question the slaves about humanity and their way of life. Rio's eyes widened hearing this information, but he still had one doubt. He asked, what if the AI doesn't activate and break? Do humans really not die here? There are circumstances where humans can't avoid dying, such as a giant beast swallowing them and a sudden powerful strike that would kill a human instantly without allowing the AI watch enough time to activate. Since you don't want to take a human's life unfairly for a good reason, I'll leave it to you how you deal with them. Just chase them away, because I'll need you to protect our lands against them. They attack the beasts and fairies that are under our protection. Unlike humans, these beasts don't have a safety mechanism for escape. They drop their skill which the human race wants and disappear from this land forever. Dylan said with a sorrowful voice. If what you're saying is true, then I'll help you to protect them and do what I can to send humans back to Earth. Rio said with some hesitation. Okay, what are your other conditions? Dylan looked at this young boy with interest who was going to walk a path to go against the human race while thinking about their safety as well. I will kill anyone or anything who would come my way to disrespect me or harm those dear to me. I won't discriminate by race and gender. This includes asuras as well. Rio spoke with a cold glint in his eyes. That's natural. If someone tries to disrespect the husband of Asura's empress, they deserve death. I understand. Tell me your other 2 conditions so we can move forward. Dylan wasn't patient and said to hurry him. My third condition is that no one will restrict my freedom, and the last, I won't allow her to marry another man besides me. She has to be loyal to me. Rio said while a chill crept up to his spine as a killing intent was directed towards him. Leah was glaring at him with a murderous look in her eyes which was putting a lot of pressure on him. But he had to put forward his condition no matter what. Your third condition is okay, but Leah can restrict your freedom if she needs you. As for the fourth one, it's obvious. The marriage oath will put you both in a binding that none of you can break. You will need each other's permission to marry someone else. Dylan said after looking at his daughter whose face was becoming beet red by their conversation. He continued, since all your conditions are agreed upon, let's initiate the marriage. Hold each other's hands. Rio stretched his right hand towards Leah, who was ignoring him like thin air after hearing her father's words. Dylan pointed with his eyes at her to give her hand forward as he saw she was reluctant. She slowly moved her hand and placed it on his warm hand. Rio felt a cold featherly hand kept on his palm. His heartbeat was thumping faster. He never imagined the girl, who moved his heart when he first saw her in enemy land, would marry him. Now pray to God to take each other as husband and wife and swear on mana, blood, family, ancestors as well as heaven that you will both love each other dearly and support each other in difficult times. You would be happy in each other's glory and take care of each other if you're sick. Dylan explained the process with a cheerful voice as he was happy his daughter was getting married. I, Rio Havenglow, pray to God to take this girl right in front of my eyes, who is more beautiful than the angels of heaven, as my wife. I swear on my mana, my blood, my family, my ancestors, and heaven to always love her dearly. I will be happy in her glory and support her in her difficult times. I'll take good care of her whenever she is sick. I'll keep these words as long as she doesn't betray me, Rio said while looking into her jewel-like red eyes. Leah's coldness melted slightly hearing his oath. She felt warmth taking over her heart. She looked at her father as she was nervous, but he cheered her with his eyes. Upstate from N0 VLB and co per meter. She spoke after some hesitation. I, Leah Devlin, pray to God to take Rio Havenglow as my husband. I swear on my mana, my blood, my family, my ancestors, and heaven to always love him dearly. I will be happy in his glory and support him in his difficult times. I'll take good care of him whenever he is sick. She spoke these words but was looking in a different direction because her face was getting redder. That's perfect. Now seal the deal with a kiss and marriage will be officially done. Dylan said while smiling ear to ear while smoke was coming out of Leah's ears because of shyness. Dylan indicated to Rio with his eyes. He understood and moved towards Leah. He was a head taller than her, so when he stood in front of her, she could see his sea green eyes. He grabbed her waist with one hand and supported the other hand to her head. Then he moved his face closer to hers. He could feel her flowery scent invading his nostril. Leah didn't resist and closed her eyes. She felt warm lips pressing down on hers while Rio felt an electric current running down his body. Her soft lips like the petals of a rose were intoxicating. Their heartbeat was resounding in each other's ears. A light shone around them and a warm feeling entered their body. Dylan saw a leaf tattoo appearing on their shoulders. Whoa, who would have expected for heaven to bless you too? I have only heard about it in legends. Those leaves on your shoulder are a blessing from heaven where they link your soul to each other. You would feel each other's location even from a long distance and allow you to talk to each other in your thoughts. Dylan was dazed seeing the results while Leah was embarrassed from the kiss. She didn't want to admit it, but she wished for the kiss to last a little longer. She felt a weird kind of bliss. Rio touched the tattoo on his shoulder, which was the same as the one on Leah's. Now, you're my son-in-law. I'll announce this news to everyone, Dylan said. Rio moved his hand in front of his face and said, wait a second. What happened? The duo of father and daughter looked at him with raised eyebrows. I would be in trouble if you spread the news of a human marrying the Asura Empress. Please alter the words that I'm also an Asura and make sure no one knows even here that I am a human, Rio said as he was worried he would be captured by humans. Oh, you're right, we should keep some information secret. I wouldn't want my newlywed daughter to become a widow, Emperor Dylan said with a bittersweet smile. He continued, later, I'll help you learn a spell that will disguise you as an Asura. You can go with Leah to see your room for now. We will start your training from tomorrow's morning. Have a memorable night, you two. Saying that, he winked at them and walked out of the hall. The awkward silence fell between them. I still don't understand. I don't believe that he wanted me to marry you just because he wants me to inherit his power. There is more to it than how it appears. Rio decided to break the silence by asking her his doubts. You are not as stupid as you look, but why didn't you ask him? Leah asked with an amusing glint in her eyes. Don't you fear those oaths that you're making fun of your husband and calling him stupid? I didn't ask him because he wouldn't tell me, and besides you're my closest bonding in this foreign land among Asuras, so I asked you. Rio said as he knew she has become his closest family in this life. The holy oath doesn't restrict wives from teasing their husbands, and yeah, there is another reason why a human was chosen to be my husband, Leah said with a stiff voice. What reason? Rio scrunched his eyebrows as he looked at her with curious eyes. When I was born, they said I'll become the greatest enemy of the human race and I'll be killed by the human warriors on my 22nd birthday. But, Leah spoke with a grave tone, then she paused in middle as she was hesitating to say any further. But, Rio asked back, sorry your highness. Rio then walked towards Leah, who had already entered the villa. Female guards were gazing at Rio as if he was a heavenly prince to be able to enter the Empress villa. No one besides the emperor had ever stepped in here besides some trusted female maiden guards. So they were astonished by seeing him enter the villa. Inside he could see a staircase leading to the second floor, while on the left side were a few rooms, but one door was opened, which showed it was a kitchen where maids were busy making food for the empress. On the right were big windows with glasses that showed the beauty of the garden and the pond. The flower-shaped chandelier on the ceiling was making a small tank glow which had golden fishes swimming around. The couch was placed in the middle with a table. Leah walked past it and took the stairs. She entered a luxurious room that was big enough to be called a hall. There were couches on the side and a king-sized bed in the middle. A vase with flowers was placed beside her bed and small magic lights were glittering in her room. A door was attached to the wall which might be a bathroom. She walked to the window and drew the curtains wide open. You will live here from now on. Although I don't want to live with you in the same room, I have to accept you since we are already bound in the oaths of heaven, Leah said with some bitterness in her eyes as she was gazing at the moon. She looked at it as if she was thinking something. Don't worry, I can sleep on the couch until you accept me in your heart, Rio said as he guessed what she was worried about. Hearing his words, she turned around and looked at him as if she wasn't expecting him to say this. She murmured, you're really a weird one. What did you say? He couldn't hear it, so he asked her to repeat it. Nothing. She didn't want to repeat it and continued, that door will lead you to the bathroom. Footsteps were heard, and a sweet voice came, may I enter, your highness? Yes, you can come. Leah's eyes moved to the door and Rio also turned back. A girl who appeared to be in her early 20s entered the room wearing a maid costume. She was a blonde with a ponytail. She was the second prettiest girl Rio met in the land of Asura. Although she wasn't at Leah's level, she could easily rival movie stars in his world. "Dinner is ready, Your Highness. Where would you like to have your dinner?" the blonde-haired girl asked politely. "I'm not hungry," Leah said. "But I'm hungry," Rio spoke hurriedly, thinking he would sleep without eating anything. "You won't get any food tonight. That's your punishment for kissing me." Leah's voice was heard in his thoughts and she coldly glared at him. "Are you for real? I was just following your father's order." Rio retaliated. "So will you jump from a cliff if he asks?" She was staring daggers at him but the maid wasn't able to hear what Leah was saying to Rio. "Of course not. I'll only do things that have some benefits for me." Rio showed his big smile. "This is Yami, the chief maid. You can ask her for anything you need from tomorrow morning." Leah told him but she didn't forget to speak the last part of the sentence word by word as if reminding him that he was destined to be punished tonight. "Okay, I understood." Rio walked towards the couch with dropped shoulders and lay down. He turned his head towards the couch back like a saddened kid whose demands were not fulfilled by his mother. "Yami, he is your new lord. Don't let anyone harm him," Leah said to the blonde-haired girl. "Who is he, Your Highness?" Yami asked with puzzlement. Although no one dared to ask Leah anything, Yami was special to her as they grew up together. She trusted her a lot and considered her like a sister. "He is mine," Leah said in a small voice so Rio couldn't hear as her face became beet red after saying the piece of information. She probably brought a new plaything for her. Yami thought inwardly as her mind didn't go in direction that Rio could be her husband. "Okay, Your Highness, have a beautiful sleep." Saying that Yami left their room. Find updated novels on No V Elben Co per meter. He is acting like a cute child. Leah looked at Rio with a gentle smile who was sleeping in the corner with his back towards her and walked to her bed to sleep. Splash, asterisk. A cold wet sensation on his face jolted him awake from his beautiful dream. Ah! He opened his eyes and fumed in anger as he saw water spill on his face. "Wake up, it's already late, don't sleep like a horse. Father is waiting for you." A mischievous voice welcomed him who disturbed his sleep. Seeing her fairy-like face reduced his anger by 80% but he was still annoyed. "Couldn't you wake me up in a gentle way?" He sat up and asked with a bitter voice while wiping the water from his face with the sleeves. "Wasn't I already gentle? I was thinking of throwing a bucket of freezing water. If you want I'll be less gentle next time," she said while crossing her arms while her eyes looked as if she was planning something mischievous. "Just wake me up like a loving wife," Rio said while stretching his body and yawning. "Come with me, or you will be late for your first training class," she said while walking towards the door. Seeing her leaving, Rio stood up and chased behind her at a fast pace while fixing his clothes and ruffling his wet hair. They went to the castle and entered a room. It had two couches placed opposite to each other near the windows which were showing the beautiful scene of the garden. Emperor was already waiting there while a maid was placing the teacups on the table that was in the middle of both couches. "Young man, it seems your wife didn't let you sleep last night." Dylan gave a knowing smile to his new son-in-law. "Father," Leah was embarrassed hearing it as her face flushed red and she glared at the Emperor while her eyebrows were scrunched. "Ha ha ha, okay, come sit here. We will start your lessons with the basic knowledge first as you don't know much about it." The newlywed couple walked to the couch and sat opposite to Dylan. Grew up by using the inheritance left behind by his grandfather. "Sorry, my classes will start after a month, then they might teach me these things. Government keeps it a secret from us until we enroll in military school," Rio said with a bittersweet smile. "Don't worry, even after you graduate from your school, there will be many things they won't be able to teach you. It's not like your innate talent is none, you just haven't awakened it yet. These innate talents decide your growth potential and how far you can go. However, you also receive a special skill when you awaken your innate talent. Someone with an A-rank innate talent can absorb red cores and receive red-tier beast souls easily but someone with C-rank will have a hard time doing it. Not only that, but many fail to ever advance their roots to the red stage in their life. Even among asuras, if they have lower innate talent they won't be able to advance their cores to red stage or even worse black." Dylan explained. "If it's that way then why did you marry me to your daughter? You could have found someone with a better innate talent," Rio asked with a puzzled face while his eyes gazed at the Emperor with suspicion. "Haha, why do you act like you have married a lioness who will chew you alive?" Heaven decided it to be you, there must be some reasons behind it that we will find in future. Besides, I can pass down my powers to you, and when I die you can absorb my core that will help you to make your innate talent A rank. I'll give you our family manual that will help you to break your body limits to absorb my core and assist you inherit my innate talent. Dylan said amusingly as he saw his son-in-law's doubtful gaze. She is not a lioness but a demoness. Rio didn't say it out loud as he was worried he would get bullied by her. You will remain hungry tonight as well if you talk bad about me. As if she heard his thoughts, Leah's voice sounded in his mind. They were able to feel each other's location and they could talk in mind from anywhere. They received this blessing by the heaven when their special bonding was sealed by a memorable kiss. Rio spoke hurriedly, No, she is a very caring and loving wife. She even served me tea. I was puzzled because I'm really not worthy of her. Rio's words were filled with bitterness in the end, and for some reason Leah's heart ached seeing him say that. As long as you keep my daughter happy, you're the worthy one. I don't see any cunningness from you like other humans. You're a weird one, Rio. Dylan spoke with a glint in his eyes. Weird one, Rio murmured while his face was filled with confusion. Let me pass you my inheritance. Saying that, Dylan hovered his hand in the air and pressed his palm on Rio's forehead. He closed his eyes and a glimmering light flowed from his forehead to hand which went through Rio's forehead. Rio felt a cooling sensation entering his body through the forehead. This effect stayed for a few seconds, then Dylan removed his hand. The calmness only stayed for a few seconds. An electric current ran down from his veins as if it would burst open. He gritted his teeth and endured the pain. Bits of sweat poured from his forehead. His watch, which was inactive, started flashing and new information was scrolling on its screen like crazy. A screen floated in front of his eyes, which was the result of the AI watch. You have acquired the ancient Devlin's skills and cultivation technique. The AI watch was developed by scientists to measure the human stats they received from the beast in Asura's land. It also reported the information of acquiring new beast souls and skills as well as any technique someone learned or acquired. Additionally, the safety ejection feature when badly injured helped to save many humans on this foreign land. Rio calmed down after this information came to him. He opened his profile by thinking about it in his thoughts as the AI watch worked by monitoring his brain waves. Less than. User. Rio Havenglow. Race. Human. Innate rank. NA. Physical power. 10. Skills. Soul link. Your soul is linked with Leah Devlin. You can feel each other's location and talk to each other from anywhere. Ancient Devlin breathing technique. Devlin might NA. You need to drink Devlin's pureblood to awaken this. Devlin transformation. Transform your body to Devlin. In this form, you receive 20% additional stats. Mana cost. 10. Devlin movement technique. Teleports to 20 meters range. Mana cost. 5. Judgment of Devlin. You can perform a 1000% damage strike to finish your enemy. It has 10% chances to instantly kill the target. Mana cost. 90% of total mana. Greater than. Whoa, Rio's mouth was agape seeing his stats windows which had some foreign skills appeared on it. What happened? Are you okay? Leah asked with some concern as she was worried when she saw him in pain a few minutes ago. It was hard for anyone to learn Devlin's family ancient skills. Even among Asura it was hard and the technique would crumble the body if the person is not related to family by any means. It was a blessing that helped Devlin's bloodline to keep their skills and secrets in safe hands. Leah was worried Rio might fail and die since he was not even an Asura. She was clutching her hands so hard in panic that nails had stabbed in her soft skin and blood could be seen. However, he was related to Leah with a beautiful bond since they became husband-wife now. So, the Emperor told her that it was safe but she was still worried. Look, here, Rio showed his AI watch to her as his stats appeared on the small screen. Dylan also leaned forward to see what he was showing. They had expected for him to have these skills but they didn't know he could read them on his AI watch. This stuff is good, can you get some for us from your world when you come back? Dylan said while looking at his AI watch with excitement on his face. Didn't you get one from human prisoners? Rio asked him with a curious look. Sometimes I doubt if you're even a human. We asked all the prisoners one by one, we only received a single answer that the AI watch can't be reset. Dylan looked at him as if he was a naive child who hadn't gone out to see the world. He scratched his head awkwardly as he was embarrassed to know less than an Asura about humans. Okay, I'll bring two with me for you guys. Rio said with a bittersweet smile. This says you need Devlin's pureblood to awaken that skill. Leah said, raising her eyebrows while pointing to the third skill. Oh, you're right, I missed it out of excitement. Do you guys have anyone with the Devlin's pureblood? Rio asked nonchalantly while looking at the duo of father-daughter with questioning eyes. You're asking as if they will give you their blood, and even if they give you need to be. Leah stopped midway before completing her sentence as she found the other half hard to share with him. What do I need to be? Rio raised his eyebrows. You don't need to know. Leah coldly said to him. You need to be their beloved one, otherwise the blood will reject you and you might not be able to advance with your route to black stage or higher. Dylan thought in mind as he understood his daughter. She didn't want to tell him for some reason. Your favorite stories on Novelb and com. Is she planning to give her blood to him? But that won't work unless she has given him a good place in her heart. I hope this boy doesn't hurt her feelings, he thought inwardly while gazing at his daughter. Leah was not close to anyone besides him and Yami. He couldn't understand what she was thinking. If Rio received her blood and awakened that skill, it meant he had already established an important place in her heart. Use that breathing technique to form a mana core. Try advancing to the yellow rank, then I'll give you your first mission. If you need anything, you can ask your wifey. Dylan chuckled and teased the kids. He stood up and walked out of the room. The Emperor asked you, why did you give it to him then? She asked her as she was displeased seeing him getting better treatment. Leah said with a cold voice, do I have to tell you everything and ask you for permission before doing it? I'm sorry, Your Highness. I have forgotten my boundaries. Please forgive me. Yami bowed to her as she was confused why Leah talked to her this way for an outsider. Prepare a meal for us and ask someone to clean this up. Leah commanded her. You, follow me. She stood up and turned to walk upstairs towards her room. Rio flashed a mischievous smile to Yami to show her that Leah loves him more and followed behind like a little child chasing his mother. Read the latest stories. He scrunched his eyebrows and closed his eyes. After some time passed, his body started going numb from the pain. His skin pores slowly started absorbing the water medicine. The water temperature lowered as the water started turning light green. Leah sank her hand in the bathtub to check it and then she turned around the moon-shaped switch. The bathtub drain opened and water started lowering in the bathtub while water fell from the showerheads that were above Rio's head. The cold tiny droplets of water collided with his body and chased away the numbness from the pain. His face regained serenity and the burning sensation stopped. A soothing effect enveloped his body. He felt reinvigorated and enjoyed the water kissing his naked skin. Their plates. There were 8 bowls of food on the portable table, and each bowl was filled with enough food to feed 2 people. After Leah was done serving them food, they started indulging in the food on the table together. Fow, I have never eaten such food before. It tastes even better than the food I ate at Havenglow's family house. Rio thought inwardly and shoved food inside his mouth. Leah gazed at the monkey who was eating his food without any manners like a hooligan. She ate her food in a graceful manner like a noble young lady. Rio was full after eating 2 plates, meanwhile our Empress ate 4 plates of food. After a while, Yami came back to the room to clean up the table. She bowed to Leah before pushing the cart, with eaten plates and bowls, out of the room. She didn't even tell me when she would return. I can't go out in a towel. Asura might think I'm an idiot since my current fashion style is out of this world. He signed. 15 minutes later, Leah came back. She came to him and took out a set of clothes which she handed him. Yami sent other maids to buy them from the shop. You can change into these clothes. Leah said to him. He took them and his hand felt the fine quality of material that was used to make them. These clothes are so light and soft. He wore a thin white t-shirt and replaced his towels with blue pants. He put an unbuttoned navy blue coat with a golden trim that showed little more than the muscular chest beneath that was covered with the white t-shirt. His new clothing made him look like royalty. Leah took out a silk belt and tied it on his waist whose 2 endings hung down to his knees. It bloomed his noble aura to another level. She fixed his collar while Rio looked at her action in a daze. Now, you only need to use the Devlin transformation skill to resemble someone from our royal family. Leah said after fixing his collar. What do you mean? Rio didn't understand her. Try using that skill, you will understand. Leah said mysteriously while crossing her arms with an amused expression. Let me check if I have enough mana. He opened his profile and a screen floated in front of his eyes. Less than. User. Rio Havenglow. Race. Human. Innate rank. NA. Root. White stage. Core. White stage. Mana. 20 plus 20. Physical power. 10 plus O. White. 0. Skills. Soul link. Your soul is linked with Leah Devlin. You can feel each other's location and talk to each other from anywhere. Ancient Devlin breathing technique. Devlin might N.A. You need Devlin's pureblood awaken this. Devlin transformation. Transform your body to Devlin. In this form, your defense is boosted by 200%. Mana cost. 10. Devlin movement technique. Teleports to 20 meters range. Mana cost. 5. Judgment of Devlin. You can perform a 1000% damage strike to finish your enemy. It has 10% chances to instantly kill the target. Mana cost. 90% of total mana. Greater than. Why is my mana 20 plus 20? Rio mumbled to himself with a puzzlement. Hearing his words, Leah raised her eyebrows and said, "Let me see." Rio couldn't show her the floating screen, so he opened his profile on the AI watch and showed her. Seeing his stats, her eyes flickered with astonishment. I have never heard of someone having double the amount of mana at the white stage. Leah spoke with a surprising tone in her voice. What do you mean double the amount of mana? Rio's heartbeat became unstable hearing her words. When someone's at white stage, they can only have 20 mana, but for you it's 40. You have double the amount of mana than the normal person, probably because you formed root and core at the same time. She turned to him and explained in a nonchalant tone. Is it a gift or a curse? Rio asked with a questioning voice. It's a gift, but don't tell anyone or it will become a curse. Don't even let my father know. Leah said with a serious voice. Will you hide things from your dad for me? Ain't I a human you hate? Rio chuckled. You don't need to know. Leah coldly glared at him and continued. Now use the Devlin transformation skill. You have more than enough mana. Okay. Saying that, he thought about the name of the skill in his mind and a white light glowed in his body. His crimson hairs started turning white color and grew to neck-length size. His sea-green eyes turned red. A defensive aura was covering him that made him feel safe, but it wasn't visible for others. It boosted his defense by 200%. He could see the surprise in Leah's eyes. Her eyes were mesmerized by his transformation, and seeing her reaction, he walked towards the dressing table to look at himself. Leah followed him behind and stood behind him. Fow, I look like your little brother. Rio exclaimed in surprise, but his happiness was met with a violent reply. Bang! Asterisk. Leah bonked him on his back. What did I do wrong now? Rio turned to look at her and asked with puppy eyes as if he was deeply wrong but her. Don't call yourself my brother, Leah said with a mosquito-like voice while her face became beet red and she looked in another direction to hide her shyness. Rio understood his mistake, but he didn't think she would dislike it this much. However, he was her husband, so it was really bad to call himself her brother. Now, you only need to use the Devlin transformation skill to resemble someone from our royal family. All new stories at n0valbin.com. He remembered her words from earlier and asked with puzzlement, so you meant this? Now I also have white hair like you and the Emperor. But aren't there others with similar hair color? It is unique to our bloodline. There aren't any other Asura who will have white hair. Even among the Devlin family, white hair means pure blood. You might find silver or gray hair, but white hair like mine and yours is unique to us. Leah explained with a serious voice. Then how do I have white hair with Devlin transformation skill, since I'm not even an Asura? Rio's eyes were filled with questioning glint. Because you're connected to me. So if an outsider uses transformation skill, then their skill will resemble and give them power similar to their partner. It also helps when they have children in future. Leah spoke with a stiff voice, but then she remembered what she spoke at the end and she avoided his gaze. He decided to change the topic to end the awkwardness between them. What's the plan for today, Your Highness? Your white rank stats points are 0. You should cultivate here. Your task is to gain a single white stats point. When you have it, I will bring you somewhere. Leah said to him while going to her bed. Okay, as Your Excellency says. Rio teased her and walked towards the couch and sat in a meditative position. He closed his eyes and started using the breathing technique. After some minutes passed, he could feel world energy coming towards him and entering his body from his skin pores. He felt 1/100th of water droplet-like strength entering his body every 10 minutes. This feeling made his body and mind become serene. After an hour passed, he forgot his surroundings and entered a deep meditative state. Leah walked out of the room and closed the door behind noiselessly. 1 white stats point gained. An AI watch voice sounded in his mind and he opened his eyes slowly. He felt his strength had increased by little, but more importantly he was done with the task Leah asked him. He looked around the room, but Leah was nowhere to be found. He deactivated his Devlin transformation and went downstairs. He found Yami in the kitchen who was working with the other maids. "Do you know where the Empress has gone?" he asked her. Hearing his footsteps and voice, Yami turned her eyes towards him and replied, "Her Highness normally stays in the garden. She asked me to tell you to find her there in case you wake up from your meditative state." "Okay, thanks," saying that he turned around and left from the exit door of the Empress Villa. Outside was enveloped in the little darkness as the moonlight and magic lanterns were shining to reveal the beauty of the garden. "It's already night. I was in a meditative state for almost 8 hours." He walked around the garden, but it didn't take him long to spot a ravishing figure in a purple dress. Her white hair was shining with the reflection of the moonlight. Small fairies were hovering around her whose wings were glowing. Her mesmerizing figure looked ethereal. When Rio got closer, she turned around and her eyes showed a glint of happiness which she hid instantly. "You look elegant in this purple dress, but the white dress you wore today was my favorite," Rio said bluntly. "Today?" Leah raised her eyebrows, then she continued, "You were in the deep meditative state for almost 30 hours. "What?" Rio's facial expression was filled with surprise. "Don't be surprised. It's not long for someone who has gone into a deep meditative state. You were lucky to enter a deep meditative state on your second try. It takes people years or decades to do so, and they can stay in this state for a week to month." Leah explained and walked to him elegantly. "Don't they get hungry?" he asked the girl who was standing right in front of him. "You absorb world energy, which is more nutritious to your body than food. You should spend your time in the library or you will embarrass yourself in front of other asuras," Leah said with an amused expression on her face. "Oh, I have to tell you something," Rio said with a proud smile. "What is it?" Leah raised her eyebrows. "I gained a white stats point in the task you gave me." Rio rubbed his nose with his finger and waited for her to praise him. "You will need 9 more stats points to reach the yellow stage. If we use this method, it will take quite a long time," Leah mumbled. After thinking a little, she said, "Come with me." She moved towards the other side of the garden while Rio followed behind her. She looked like a fairy walking in the night as moonlight glimmered on her beautiful hair and body. She walked past a lot of trees that Rio couldn't recognize. There were a lot of different plants such as shrubs, ivy, bush, herbs, mushrooms, trees and so on. Some of them had berries like fruits and some of them had weird-looking transparent balls hanging on them in which you could see the image of the beasts, humanoids, armors and even many different things Rio didn't recognize. She has such a crazy hobby of collecting these weird plants. She stopped near a tall tropical grass with hard, hollow stems that looked like bamboo. An ivy plant was coiling around it which had some white beads attached to it like fruits. She plucked one of the white beads out of it and handed it to Rio who was standing behind her. "Consume it," she said in a calm voice. "Am I going to face torment of pain again like how it always happens when I'm with you?" Rio hesitated and said with a fear in his eyes. He inspected the white bead in his hand that was soft like other berries. Leah rolled her eyes at him. "Even if it gives you pain, it will make you stronger. I won't do something that will harm your life." Rio gulped nervously and ate the white bead. F0 Lou new chapters at November EL.com. As it entered his mouth, it dissolved instantly. He felt a rush of energy going towards his heart. His white core absorbed the energy and he felt strength spreading inside his body. Fruit of white eggleshu eaten. 1 white stats point gained. His eyes shone as he read the text floating in front of him. "Whoa, it gave me a white stats point." Rio's mouth was agape. She plucked out 9 more white eggleshus and handed him. "Eat them all." It was tiny in size that his palm was able to hold them all at once. He ate them all by stuffing the white eggleshu inside his mouth. They dissolved instantly, even being high in quantity, and a massive energy flowed towards his white core which absorbed them instantly. He felt a massive boost in strength compared to the first time he ate white eggleshu. 9 fruits of white eggleshu eaten. 9 white stats points gained. Eggleshu and handed him. He ate it nervously and the white bead entered his mouth. They dissolved like before and gave him some energy, but no text appeared like before. He saw the ivy plant withered and shrank after Leah plucked out the white eggleshu from it. A single tiny bud was formed at the root of the bamboo-like plant. "Sorry, I destroyed your white eggleshu plant." Rio apologized to her with a bitterness in his voice. "They aren't destroyed. They will grow back in 10 years of time," Leah said with a nonchalant voice as if it wasn't a big deal. Growl. Asterisk. His stomach made an embarrassing sound and revealed the fact he hadn't eaten for 30 hours. "Sorry about that," he said with a bittersweet smile and scratched the back of his head. "Let's return to our room so we can eat." Leah said and walked towards her villa alongside Rio. They arrived in their room and Leah prepared another bath for Rio with the medicinal herbs. He showed little resistance this time for the bathing session and it went smoothly. They ate their dinner and decided to head to sleep. Sun rose in the eastern sky and welcomed a new day as it glistened on top of Empress Villa. Rio slowly opened his eyes. He yawned lazily and stretched his body. She didn't wake me up in a rough way. He looked around him to find her. Leah was near the dressing table. She was wearing a white dress that bloomed her beauty. Last night I told her I liked white dress. Is she wearing this for me? Leah saw his movement in the mirror and turned around. You woke up. Father told me to send you to meet him for training. He said you have reached the yellow stage and you should get some combat training. Leah spoke while combing her beautiful white hair. How did he find out? Rio scrunched his eyebrows as it was only a few hours ago he reached the yellow stage. There are royal guards guarding the castle. You can even see them on the high walls. They may have probably seen you when you were enveloped in yellow light and informed father. Leah said with a stiff voice and put the comb down. I have one more question I wanted to ask you. Why did I have to go through white stage to reach the yellow stage? Didn't the emperor say that it started from the yellow rank cores that humans absorb? Rio asked with a puzzled face. Leah turned around to look at him and explained, unlike humans, who are dependent on the core to raise their roots, beasts and asuras cultivate for years to raise their core. We asuras start from white stage and you also formed a core using ancient Devlin technique so you started from white stage same as an asura. Doesn't that mean humans can also have white stats points if they find a white stage wild beast's core? He asked with a curious smile as if he solved a big problem the world was facing. She shook her head gracefully and said, it doesn't work like that. Wild beasts inherit the same rank of core as their parents when they are still a fetus, unlike us asura or humans who have to start from 0. As the river of time flowed there weren't any white stage beasts left as many reproduced when they reached the yellow stage. Won't the same happen to yellow rank beasts as more time passes and become as rare as unicorns and phoenix feather? He asked as his eyes were filled with questions. It's easy to evolve your core to yellow stage from the white but the journey up ahead is difficult. So many beasts remain in the yellow stage for life. And one more thing, phoenix and unicorn aren't rare in this world. Leah said the last part with a hint of pleasure as if to give him shock. What? He looked dazed but then he calmed down a few seconds later as this wasn't Earth and he should be ready for unexpected outcomes. He said after standing up, okay, I'll go meet him but I am not familiar with the castle and where to find him. I have already told Yami. She will bring you to father. Leah said as a mysterious glint flickered in her eyes. Okay, I'll go then. He felt awkward as if Leah wasn't talking to him normally. This was the first time she was sending him with someone else. Follow newest stories at no.vl by n.com. I'm probably overthinking. He walked out of the room and went downstairs. I would have come with you for combat training but father restricted me to come as I wouldn't be able to see you suffer in pain. Leah sighed inwardly like a doting mother whose child was going on a war for the country. He asked Yami and she brought him to the room where he got his first training class with the emperor. After he reached the room, Yami asked for permission from the emperor and they entered the room. There was one more person standing in the room while the emperor was sitting on his seat. That person turned around to look at Rio, her red eyes gazed at him as if she was longing for something or someone that she lost, but when she saw his sea green eyes, she stared at him with a murderous intent. She gave an aura of a terrifying wild beast but her figure told differently. She had blonde-colored hair that came to her shoulder. She was 174 centimeters tall, which made her taller than Leah, who was around 168 centimeters. She looked the same age as Leah as she also appeared around 18 years old. Her seductive figure was covered in different armors. She wore a blue dress on top that was white at her perfect-sized bosom. A metallic gorget was covered by a blue shawl that was wrapped around her neck and its end was kissing her black greave above her black pants that hid her slender legs. Her hands were covered in black gauntlet and one of her shoulders had a black pauldron. A black scabbard was hanging on her waist that was hiding her weapon. Helia, don't scare him. He is the one you need to train, the emperor said to her. She took back her killing intent from him but she was still looking at him as if he was her prey. Finally, there is someone who will teach this shameless idiot a lesson. Yami bowed to the emperor and left the room while gloating inwardly. She is prettier than Yami and many girls I met but she still pales in comparison to Leah. But, she is looking at me as if I killed her parents. Rio thought and gulped nervously as a chill ran down his spine. Who is this lioness that's looking at me as if she would chew me alive? Rio asked the emperor bluntly. Order given by the uncle, and I'll make every single day of your training a living hell that you will pray to God why you were even born. Her red eyes were full of anger as she wanted to cut him into thousands of pieces. She then pushed him away after saying these words. He was thrown to the ground by her immense strength. Rio couldn't understand the situation and her personality towards him that took a 180-degree turn after being alone together. He touched his jaw and rubbed it. It was feeling as if a few hot needles pierced him. However, his previous question about the trees got answered as those green lights covered his figure and those wounds made by the nail marks healed. His skin became smooth like before, only some bloodstained left which told the story it really happened. He stood up and looked at her in confusion. He couldn't understand anything why she did it to him. What was he supposed to do now after what she did? Her voice sounded, I'm already done with my message to you, so you don't ask any nonsense in the future. For the training, I'll attack you from here and you have to dodge it. He frowned hearing her unreasonable words, but he was helpless as she didn't even wait for him to reply. She brought out a dagger from thin air. Its deadly sharp blade shone in the light of the illuminating stones that she had already swung in his direction. Before Rio could even blink his eyes, a sharp blade tore apart his newly bought robe and pierced his flesh on the right shoulder. Arg! He cried out in pain. Blood gushed out from it as he felt a great deal of pain spreading. He felt as if hundreds of bees had stung him in the same place. He was from Earth and he never experienced a battle where someone used a dagger to pierce his body. There were fights where people used their fists or legs to attack him, but no one used such a rough way as a deadly sharp dagger. Don't stay there like a fool. I won't stop attacking you until your body is decorated with 10 daggers and gives me pleasure. Your job is to avoid as much as possible. Saying that, Helia threw more daggers at him. Swoosh. Asterisk. The air vibrated as it traveled towards him rapidly. Hearing her words and experiencing her actions, he felt he was done for as every cell of his body screamed at him to run away. He moved to the side to avoid her daggers, but he was too late and 3 more daggers stabbed into his right hand, tearing apart his clothes along with the flesh. Blood flowed from his right hand continuously and his body felt heavy from the weight of the dagger dyed in his own blood. He felt so weak in his heart and knees that he knelt on the ground. Is that how much you humans can endure? Let me find out for myself. Helia's chilly voice sounded. Most up-to-date novels are published on N0 Velb N Co per meter. Another 6 daggers flew towards him and pierced his flesh in both of his thighs. He collapsed to the ground and his body cried in agony. He was taking longer breaths and his body was shaking as the pain was invading his mind and body. His clothes turned red from his own blood as they flowed on the ground. He felt as if he was losing consciousness and his body becoming numb. However, at that exact moment, the daggers vanished from his body and a soothing green light embraced him to release him from his misery. The agonizing pain went away and his flesh healed at a faster pace. Within 5 seconds, he was fully healed. He felt as if he just had a nightmare. He looked towards the source of his living nightmare, who was looking at him with an amusing cold smile. She looked as if she was a devil, disguised as a beautiful young maiden to seduce him and release him from his tormenting pain by taking his life. She hurled several more daggers at him, but this time he didn't waste time. He rolled to the ground and dodged her attacks. Those blades stabbed into the grassy field. It cut down the green blade of grasses. She raised her eyebrows as he dodged them and recalled the daggers as they disappeared from the spot. Grass blades that were broken, recovered to normal, just how Rio healed. She threw 10 daggers at him fiercely and he jumped to the side to avoid them. He felt a tingling feeling on his back and 2 of the daggers dig into the flesh of his leg. He grabbed them while crying out in pain and threw them out. As he did it, he rolled to the ground instinctively to avoid the upcoming daggers which stabbed the place he was before. He got better at avoiding the dagger as time passed, but daggers still pierced him from time to time. As he improved at dodging the coming attacks, she increased the number of daggers she threw from 10 to 30. He was pierced by 10 daggers more than 20 times during the training. After pinning him to the ground with 10 more daggers, she came to a stop. Tomorrow I'll wait for you here in the morning. Saying that, she started walking out of the battle arena building. Wait, he called out with an agonizing voice. What? Her infuriating voice sounded. I have no clue why you hate me, but... He paused and stood up while removing daggers from his body one by one. His wounds healed on their own as the healing green light from the trees enveloped him as he took out the blades. Helia narrowed her eyes at him. He continued with a determined voice while throwing away the last dagger. One day I will make you regret it, that you will cry for how you treated me unfairly today. I will never have any guilt for treating Garbage, like a shit. She mocked him. "Wanna bet?" Rio amusingly said and stared into her red eyes that were filled with coldness. "There is nothing to bet about for such a useless thing. You can never make me feel regret for my action today." She snorted at him. "Are you scared?" He smiled at her to provoke her more. "You?" She glared at him with her red eyes full of resentment and naked murderous intent. "Ha ha ha, I can understand you just know how to oppress the weak and nothing more. But mark my word, one day you will regret and shed tears for your unreasonable action of today." He was making her walk into the trap that he was weaving, so he repeated his words again to provoke her. She took a long breath and said, "I, Helia Reinhardt, swear on heaven and my core if I ever regret my action today, for making this disgusting creature in front of me suffer in pain, I will accept him as my lord." A golden light flashed and enveloped her, then vanished away. What was that? Rio was taken aback. Unbreakable oath. "If I ever regret what I did today to you, my core will shatter and my body will crumble. But I'm 100% confident that I will have no guilt even cutting you in thousands of pieces right here right now." Helia proudly smiled. "At least you should have said, I will apologize to him, or maybe, I won't hate every human blindly without a reason, but why did you have to say I will accept him as my lord? I don't need a lady like you when I already have an angel-like wife who is the most gorgeous in the world." Rio berated her and shook his head. She thought he is a fool for declaring and giving someone randomly the top spot. Just because you find her pretty, she became the most beautiful. "What a fool," she mocked him and snorted. "I bet even all the asura in this world would have the same opinion as me and find her as the supreme epitome of beauty. She is beyond the realm of cuteness. Let me say, she is sexy and damn attractive. Her mesmerizing jewel-like red eyes, her beautiful smile, her sense of fashion, her sweet style. Everything she does, everything she says, makes me cherish her more. She is unforgettably the cutest. She flutters my heart as she is my closest bond in this world." Rio spoke as his eyes were enamored. "Who is your wife?" She didn't want to believe him, but she still asked while narrowing her eyes at him. He cast his Devlin transformation skill and spoke word by word as if announcing the whole world. "My wife is the Asura Empress." His crimson hair turned white and grew bigger to the neck-length size. His sea-green eyes became red and a protective layer enveloped his skin that boosted his aura. Helia stumbled back as she heard his words and saw his Devlin transformation. Her world turned upside down when she saw his Devlin transformation. As the cousin of Leah and niece of Dylan, she was also blood-related to the Devlin family and knew about the secret skill. It was hard for an outsider to learn it. For what reason he could use this Devlin transformation, Rio answered himself. If what he was saying was true, then she wouldn't be able to face Leah again. "In this world, I only cherished two people in my heart. First was Big Brother, who was the little heaven I lost, and the second is Leah, who took me out of my sorrow when I was desperate to die." Helia was frozen on the spot and her mind was a mess. She saw a leaf tattoo on his shoulder that was peeking out from his tattered clothes. "That's a blessing mentioned in legends, which is given by heaven to us Asura when two soul mates come together by the wheel of destiny." Her eyes widened seeing the green leaf engraved on his skin, which was covered in his blood. Her mind was a mess, her heartbeat was unstable. If this is true, then, Uncle, she gritted her teeth and left the room before looking at his handsome face, which was filled with smugness. Seeing her leave, his Asura transformation deactivated and he came to his real appearance. He swayed in the air and fell to the ground. Thump. Asterisk. Although the healing tree recovered his wounds, he had no stamina or energy left. He was devoid of any energy. Read latest chapters on No VELB in Com. He was just giving her a strong confrontation so he could intimidate her to fall for his trap. Emperor could ask anyone to give him training, but he still picked his niece. That meant he trusted her more than others. His motives behind choosing her were so she won't go easy on Rio, but if he didn't reveal he was Leah's husband, she would have killed him or crippled him sooner or later. Although he wanted to play it safe to hide his identity, that didn't mean he would risk his life. Emperor Dylan forced him to reveal it. If I didn't do it, she would have made my training days a hell. I hope she shows some resistance tomorrow with her fierce nature. He was laid down on the floor and remembered how he got better at dodging her attacks as time passed. After 15 minutes passed, footsteps sounded. He moved his eyes and saw Yami entering the arena. She walked to him and said, "His Excellency told me to clean you first before you go back. He doesn't want the Empress to see you in this condition." "Okay." Rio stood up from the ground and walked out of the battle arena. Sun was about to go down and invite the darkness to welcome the night. Rio walked alongside Yami and entered the castle. After going through a long corridor, they entered a bathroom that wasn't as majestic as the one in the Empress Villa, but it had a similar bathtub with a showerhead. Rio coldly said to her, "You wait outside." "Okay," Yami said with a polite tone as she felt bad for him after seeing his tattered clothes and blood stains. She placed a set of clothes in the room with a towel and went outside. Rio enabled the showerhead and water washed his long day tormenting memories. His tired body relaxed in the cool droplets of water. He felt as if he had come from a war that went on for many days. The Emperor wants to hide it from Leah. Does he fear she will go against him? He mumbled inwardly. Although she acted like she was taking revenge for old grudges, it helped me to improve my battle sense. In the future, I won't have this luxury when I'll fight wild beasts or other humans. His words took a halt as he thought he had to fight others from his race. He sighed and came out of the shower to put on the new clothes she brought. It looked the same as the one he wore before. He walked out of the room and followed Yami to return back. In a spacious room, Emperor Dylan was sitting in front of a blonde-haired girl who was glaring at him. "Haha, I didn't know he would dare to reveal it himself." Dylan laughed like a grandfather next door. "So this is true." She was fuming with anger at her uncle. "Yes, as you already know, Leah is destined to die on her 22nd birthday, and the only way to reverse her destiny was to find a man from another land who would go against heaven's will and all the human race for her. The old man died after saying the time of this man's arrival. So our only hope is to follow his words, since he really appeared as the old man said." Dylan said with sorrowful eyes. "He hasn't even awakened an innate talent yet," Helia said. "That's why I asked you to train him, so you can push him to a desperate end where he finds his switch to shake his dormant powers." Dylan chuckled. "You knew I detest humans more than anyone or anything, yet you made me train him and even said to use pain as long as he doesn't get crippled. If Leah ever finds out, she will hate me." Helia clenched her hands and her eyes showed sorrow. "But it was a good lesson for you to come out of your blind hate for humans. Now you would have some sense while you come across people from his race." Dylan said with a serious voice. "First, this man made me train a human and made me fall for his trap. Second, that annoying boy who provoked me to make an unbreakable oath." She stared dagger at him and understood she had fallen for it. She got played by two annoying men and she walked directly into their crutches. "This is why I hate all men. They are devious." She snorted at him and turned to leave. "Oh, I just remembered. Didn't you say to Leah that when you grow up you would marry the person she marries?" "Ha ha ha." Emperor Dylan laughed heartily. Helia, who was about to walk out of the room, almost tripped. Swoosh. Asterisk. A dagger pierced the air and stabbed into a gap between both of Dylan's thighs. A cold wind passed through his crotch. The Emperor stopped laughing and cold sweats poured down his spine. "She is vicious." He gulped nervously as this happened and thought of the outcome if she hit his little brother with that sharp blade. Helia walked out of the room without showing her beet red face. "Tree?" he asked her while he inspected his new sword. "There are 3 tiers among Beast Soul on each stage for the same type. Normal, Mutated, and King. You can recognize them on the tree. There is always one king among these Beast Souls when they grow in trees, so the one you have is the Silver Bloom King Beast Soul." Leah said and cleared his doubts. "How long will it take them to grow another Silver Bloom King sword?" he asked her while gazing at her alluring face, which was making the moon in the night sky jealous of her elegance. "It will take a few years," she spoke and looked at him, waiting for his next question as if she knew what he would ask next. "Why did you give it to me then?" he asked, puzzled. "What do you think?" she answered with another question. Her face looked mysterious while her eyes were amusingly looking at the naive boy whose face was puzzled. She continued, "You haven't taken your medicinal bath today. We should return." They started walking back to the villa while Leah said, "You can store the beast soul in your mind. See. Just command it to return with a thought." "What's mind see?" He raised his eyes. "Just do it, you will understand," she said and walked alongside him towards the villa. He commanded the sword to return and it disappeared from his hand. He saw in his mind a dark room and a light flickered inside. The Silver Bloom King sword appeared there while glowing in light and stayed in the dark room, which Leah called Mind See. He was surprised as he experienced it firsthand. He tried calling it again and the sword appeared in his hand while the hilt was placed on his hand perfectly. "This is amazing," he mumbled. Leah made him bathe in medicinal herbs and made him go through another torment of pain with hot water. It wasn't as bad as the training with Helia, so he didn't mind it much. They ate their dinner and slept for the day. The next day, Rio woke up early for training and ate a light breakfast before leaving the villa. Yami took him to the castle where he changed his clothes to a single combat practicing robe. Read latest chapters on No VELB in com. It was a simple gray shirt and black pants. He went towards the battle arena and arrived to find out that Helia was already waiting there. Although he was late, she didn't stare at him like a vampire hungry for his blood. "Today I'll teach you how to use a weapon," she said while nervousness painted her face. After saying the first sentence she relaxed and broke the awkwardness between them. She continued, "Do you have any weapon you want to practice with?" Rio chuckled and said, "I just received one yesterday." With a single thought to his mind, a 1-meter-long sword appeared in his hand. That's the Silver Bloom King sword from Leah's garden. To give him a beast soul from her garden, which she doesn't even let anyone touch, shows his importance in her heart, Helia thought inwardly. He swung his sword as he watched on TV and she shook her head in disappointment seeing how her sister was married to this foolish guy who didn't even know how to use a sword. "I'll train him well so he can be worthy of her and protect her." A light of determination flickered in her eyes and she inspected Rio from head to toe. He stopped swinging his sword foolishly as he felt her hot gaze, which was different from yesterday. "Why do you all Asura girls love to look at my sexy body as if it's a heavenly treat for your eyes? I prefer that murderous intent filled in your gaze to how you looking at me now." Rio took his steps back and stumbled. "Attack me with your sword however you want." Saying that, Helia appeared in front of him and a sword appeared in her hand different from the one present on her waist. She swung her sword towards him, who tightened his grip on his sword and met with her strike. He was pushed away by the impact and his hand felt numb. Before he could even relax, she slashed at him vertically and he had to place his sword in a horizontal way to stop it in track from striking him. His steps dragged on the ground as he collided with her strike while grasses were ruined by his shoes as a line was formed from the impact. Her attacks are too overpowered. He was pushed from one side to another side of the battle arena as she attacked him continuously. After 30 minutes he was breathing heavily as he lay on the ground while spreading his hands and legs. "Why are you not using mana enchantment?" she asked him with questioning eyes that were glaring at him fiercely. "What's mana enchantment?" he said while turning his neck in her direction to gaze at her. "Those filthy humans didn't even teach you how to use mana enchantment. How can they be so useless?" She snorted in a dissatisfied voice. "I have only recently reached the yellow stage and my school will start in a few weeks," he said while looking at the ceiling of the building and avoiding her beast-like gaze, which was filled with anger for humans once again. "How about your family? Didn't they give you basic knowledge about mana usage?" she asked in her usual dominating tone. "I am an orphan. I grew up alone although the Havenglow family adopted me out of nowhere a month ago. I was reluctant to join them but I was forced by the government since they are one of the most influential families in my world," he said with a bittersweet smile and sat up on the ground. Helia tightened her fist as she saw a longing emotion flickering in his eyes. She also lost her mother and brother but she knew how it felt to have a family. Emperor Dylan and Leah never treated her like an outsider. But he never had a family before. He doesn't even know how it feels to be around someone who loves you. "She is my closest bond in this world." So he wasn't lying. Revelation enveloped her mind as she started seeing him in a different light than others of his race. He stood up and faced her with his sword but her voice made him halt in his track. "I'll teach you how to use mana enchantment. It is a technique to infuse your body parts with little mana to increase their efficiency. The more mana you infuse the stronger they will become and you will be able to infuse higher strength. Make sure to pour little mana, the amount your body can endure, otherwise, your flesh and muscle will start cracking slowly. You also need to keep monitoring your mana usage as a one-time infusion can only last up to 10 minutes of enhancement in strength," Helia explained with a stiff voice. Rio became dumbfounded hearing her explanation, then he saw her extending her hand which started glowing blue. "Try it," her cold voice came. He extended his hand like her and tried sending mana towards his hand. After pouring mana for a little, his hand started aching. "Arg," he cried out in pain. "Don't be hasty, just use a little mana," she berated him. He only sent a little mana this time and his hand also glowed blue. He felt as if his hand was breathing with the strength to tear apart the trees and break the stony boulders. "Pour mana in your sword in a similar way. Since it's a beast soul it will be easier for you to do it," she commanded him like a general to her soldiers. He did as she said. The Silver Bloom King's sword aura doubled and felt as if roaring its glory to the world. She moved towards him with her sword and attacked him. This time he felt the numb feeling in his hand lessened, but he was still pushed backward and he gripped his sword tightly. Try pouring mana in your legs and eyes. Her domineering voice sounded in his ears. He sent little mana to his eyes and legs. His eyes glowed blue and he saw the surroundings become slower. He could see the veins of the leaf of the healing tree in the corner of the arena. His legs cried out in strength and he felt he could jump to touch the ceiling. He curled his knees. A few seconds later, like an arrow released from the bowstring, he rushed towards her at an incredible speed. A smile blossomed on his face. Oh, the cub will now attack his mother after its claw grew. Helia spoke with a mocking smile and waited for his upcoming strike. You're not my mommy, Rio said and attacked her head on. Her face had become red from hearing his remark, mommy. She had heard from maids that among lovers a male partner called their female partner mommy if they were older. Some people used this word among lovers, so her face was flushed like a cherry, thinking Rio might be younger than her as he looked 16. The sword collided and she wasn't prepared, which caused a slice on her blue top. Her cloth tore apart slightly and blood gushed out from it, revealing her pale shoulder. She jolted awake from her embarrassment seeing her cloth tearing apart. A chilly aura enveloped Rio and he felt a coldness creep up to his spine. He was attacked countless times. They collided in the air 20 times in a span of 1 minute, but their figure was moving at a fast pace. It looked as if a video was playing in rapid motion. I didn't know you and Leah, I still don't regret my actions. Although I am forbidding myself from drawing your blood, I'll teach you a lesson for making this lady angry, Helia snorted inwardly. Rio was punched on his body and kicked on his butt many times while their swords hit each other. After an hour of colliding in the arena, Rio ran out of mana and collapsed on the ground. She enjoyed seeing him groaning on the ground. Get your favorite novels at novelb.com. It took 30 minutes instead of an hour to recover his full mana due to the special effect of the healing tree. They started once again. He started learning her pattern, but her speed was faster. The fierce combat practice continued until they heard a door creaking sound as someone entered the arena. It was Yami standing near the entrance. Her face flashed with astonishment as she saw it was Helia, whose clothes were torn apart with blood while Rio's clothes were only covered in dirt. Tomorrow at the same time, Helia said before leaving the battle arena, avoiding Yami's curious gaze that was staring at her torn clothes. Seeing Yami come to fetch him, he followed her to the castle. She was giving him a curious look from time to time. He took a bath and returned back. He met Leah in the garden and she asked him to they should go back. Let's sit here for a while, Rio said to her and sat on the ground in front of the big tree that had rainbow-colored fruits and white glowing leaves. Little fairies were hovering around it. Okay. Leah also sat beside him and they watched the palm-sized fairies dancing around them. His routine for the next few weeks was similar. Your favorite stories on novelb.com. In the morning after breakfast, he would practice with the fierce girl Helia, who fought with him until the evening. With time, he was able to dodge her attacks and land more strikes on her. She started increasing the strength used for him, which made him understand she was going easy on him from the very start. In the evening, he would bathe and sit with Leah in the garden to enjoy the beauty of moonlight, fairies, and especially his wife. She would make him bathe in medicinal herbs and have their dinner before they went to bed. As the days passed, Rio improved greatly in sword fighting and gained massive combat experience. He became closer to Leah but felt a distance from Helia as she still gave him cold treatment in combat training. On the 27th night after coming to the land of the Asura, Rio and Leah were walking in the garden when Yami came hurriedly. Your Highness, please return to the villa. A prisoner has run away. It's unsafe here, she said with a grave tone. Who ran away? She asked with a frown. I don't know, Your Highness. She bowed to her. Okay, we will return back. You can go now, she said with a cold voice as she remembered her dream from the morning. Yami bowed to her and left. My eyes of destiny gave me another dream. She was contemplating and thinking about the dream from the morning in which Yami and his father were talking about a secret plan behind her back. Rio asked while facing her, what prisoners do you guys keep here in the castle? His voice jolted her awake, but before she could answer him she saw Rio's eyes flickered with murderous intent, who was standing in front of him and facing her. His figure disappeared from her sight and she felt a strong gust of wind behind her. A sound of flesh cutting was heard in her ears and she turned around too. See, as a sword pierced Rio's shoulder and protruded from the other side along with his flesh as well as blood. Hot crimson blood spurted from it and splattered on her fairy-like face as Rio took the strike on himself that was coming for her. A human was standing there whose sword had stabbed Rio's shoulder. He was tall and bulky, but his body was marked with many cuts. He looked injured and lacked energy. He appeared behind them out of nowhere and was about to strike Lia when Rio saw him. If he wasn't skilled, how could he escape the eyes of many guards and even Lia, who didn't feel his appearance when he appeared behind her? She was contemplating her dream, so she could have missed it. But she felt something was fishy behind this whole incident. The bulky man laughed evilly and pointed his empty hand towards Lia, but before he could do anything, a scythe enveloped in black smoke howled in a terrifying voice and struck him vertically as his body split in two. Blood came out of his body like a red flower blooming. A cloud of black smoke covered his body and started burning in black fire. Rio, who just used his skill, Judgment of Devlin, after Devlin movement technique, grabbed the blade of the sword out of his shoulder and threw it away. The bulky man's body was incinerated by the vicious black flames of his strike. Rio gritted his teeth and fell to his knees. Blarg, he puked out everything he ate last night while tears flowed from his eyes. Lia held his body from behind and patted his back. Blarg, he vomited again and felt devoid of energy from body and mind. Executing that strike had taken his 90% of mana, but killing a human for the first in his life made him filled with disgust and guilt. Lia supported him to stand up. He looked dazed while Lia embraced him from the back to help him walk. He was unable to calm his mind and she understood his mental state. The black flames dissipated, and only the badly charred body remained. Yami had already run to Lia, but she was stopped in her track after seeing Rio's condition. Emperor arrived with guards there as hearing the commotion. He called for a priest and it came soon after, as if already prepared in advance. The priest cast a healing spell on Rio and his wound healed at a visible speed. Although the physical injury vanished, the mental blow was still there, which shook him to the core. "Young boy, it seems like you have never killed anyone before," Emperor Dylan said with some concern and paused to look at the charred corpse to the side. He continued, "That prisoner was at Black Stage. Even if he was injured, it's praiseworthy that you were able to finish him with only one strike. He needs to rest," Lia said with a chilly voice to him. Saying that, she started moving towards her villa while supporting Rio. "Let me help you, Your Highness." Yami came forward to help, but Lia placed her hand in front of her and made her stop her footsteps. Emperor sighed seeing how his daughter was treating him and Yami after Rio got injured. They walked slowly towards the Empress villa and entered their room. She supported him to sit on the king-sized bed and sat beside him. "What are you worrying about?" Her sweet voice sounded beside him. "I killed someone. I'm a murderer." Rio, who didn't reply to the emperor, spoke for the first time after killing the prisoner in a sorrowful voice. Tears dropped from his eyes like a little child. Lia caressed his head and asked, "If you were given a chance to turn back time, would you spare him and let him attack me?" She blew a landmine in his thought process as he started looking at her with astonished wet eyes. "Tell me, would you spare him, Rio?" Lia asked again with a sweet voice, as if a mother was telling her little child not to cry for his broken toys. He shook his head while gazing at her loving expression towards him. "Then calm down. Tears don't suit you," she said as she wiped his tears from his wet face with her fingers stroking his cheeks. "But it's not easy. I killed him." He looked dazed and sorrowful. "In this world, and I believe even in your world, they kill each other. Some kill others for greed, ego, blinding in power, and for many bad reasons, which is a sinful act. However, there are those like you who wield a weapon to save the innocents and people they love. It's not wrong to kill someone for saving someone you care about." Lia spoke with a sweet voice to lower his guilt. He blinked at her continuously and felt the knot of guilt getting loose when she twisted words to make him realize he wasn't entirely wrong. He dropped down his face as the flashback of killing the human came back to his mind. At the same time, he felt a soft hand wrapped around his back. A flowery scent invaded his nostril and his face was buried in her soft bosom. He enjoyed his face on her featherly warm chest. An electric shock made the hair of his pores stand up from such actions, but it wasn't from his lustful thoughts. It was because of her lovingly caring nature towards him to make him feel better. Instinctively, his hands also wrapped around her back. She caressed the back of his head and he relaxed in her loving embrace. A boy who grew up alone without any love. A boy who had no family and loved ones. For this boy, this was his first hug he could ever remember. His heart tickled and felt the warmth of love for the first time in many years. He felt as if he was in heaven. He forgot all his mental tiredness and the agony of guilt. He relaxed in her loving embrace. "Thank you," he mumbled in her thoughts. "Why thank you?" She asked back in his thoughts. For being nice to me, he replied. Shouldn't I be nice to my innocent husband who just killed someone for saving me? She giggled. Don't remind me, he retorted. Leah supported him to lay down on bed and slept while Leah kept him in her embrace. She kept ruffling his hair as if he was a little child. Those nightmares that the eyes of destiny gave me changed since our soul linked by heaven's blessing. Last defense in my heart against you was shattered when I saw that killing intent in your eyes to protect me. You change my fate or not, I won't treat you unfairly. She spoke in her heart. Read latest chapters at NOVELB and Co per meter. Stars glimmered around the moon as if celebrating the beautiful night and two souls of two different worlds accepting each other in their hearts. Leah woke up to the sensation of something pressing against her chest. When she opened her eyes, she saw a crimson-haired boy's head was snuggling to her bosom, his hands wrapped around her like hugging a pillow. Her face flushed red, but then she remembered what happened last night and how she comforted him. She calmed down and gently rolled Rio off her body. She sighed in relief when she saw that he was still sleeping. She stood up and started getting ready to go to the castle. In a room, a middle-aged man with white hair was sitting on a couch. He was having his tea while reading the reports of the activities happening recently. He heard light footsteps approaching his door. The person didn't even ask for permission and slammed open the door. Why did you do this? A chilly atmosphere enveloped the room as Leah coldly glared at the Emperor Dylan. What do you mean, Leah? He tried to hide his nervousness. He knew this would eventually happen, but he didn't know it would happen this early. Don't pretend to not know anything. You know what I'm talking about. Why did you plan this behind my back? To test Rio. She fiercely stared at him. Oh, you're talking about last night. The guards were drunk last night and they mistakenly left the keys inside. I already ordered those guards to be executed for making such a mess. Emperor Dylan said with a bittersweet smile. I already saw you and Yami to plan about it in my destiny vision. You don't have to fabricate more lies. She berated him. He started avoiding his gaze from her as he heard he was caught red-handed. Answer me. Why did you do this without my permission? Her domineering voice was sounding in the room. He would be leaving for his school. I needed to test him before he left. If he can't even go against one human, how will he face the whole of humanity for you? Emperor Dylan said while his eyebrows scrunched. You can't just treat him like he is your experimental rat. Don't forget he is my husband. She said with a threatening tone. I don't have much time left, Leah. A saddened voice came from the Emperor Dylan. His voice halted as he recollected an upcoming grave problem. He continued, the demonic red worm will consume my heart in less than 3 years. I want Rio to be ready before I leave this world. We don't know which clan will turn their fangs against the royal family after I leave. You're not strong enough to face them alone, neither is Helia. If the old man's prophecy is true, then Rio would be the one. I just want him to be ready for that day. It cannot happen if I go easy on him. He already passed my tests with full marks. He even tamed Helia, who hates the mere sight of humans. Dylan spoke in a sorrowful glint in his eyes. You made them meet knowing she would despise him. She narrowed her eyes. Don't worry. She trained him all these days and she also said he is not like other humans. She was telling me how she saw a sad longing for his family as he is an orphan. Dylan said with a smile as he remembered the violent Helia telling him about Rio when they had a cup of tea together. Helia trained him all these days and she even felt pity for him. Leah's eyes were astonished after hearing the story. She remembered their conversation. Was it painful? No, the trainer is a soft-hearted lady. I was mesmerized by her beauty for a little. But she isn't as pretty as you. Her heart felt warm as she remembered how he praised her while comparing to her own cousin sister. I was monitoring their training so he was safe. But I needed them to get along well so they can both support you. If Helia parted ways with you because of Rio, then you would have lost one of the most trusted aides and one of the strongest sword by your side. He said with a nonchalant voice. I don't want you to force things on Rio. If you harm him for your political motives, then don't blame me for being unreasonable. The white-haired beauty coldly spoke to Dylan and turned around to leave the room. Dylan dropped down his shoulders and sighed in disappointment as he realized how his daughter treasured a foreign boy a lot in less than 4 weeks. Rio woke up to the sound of footsteps. When he opened his eyes, he saw Leah entering the room. She had a coldness painted on her face and eyes, but when she saw Rio was gazing at her, it melted down and became warm. Did you sleep well? She asked him while entering the room. Yes, but I don't remember anything before I slept. How did I end up in your bed? Did you take advantage of my enticing body last night? Rio asked her with doubtful gaze in sarcastic manner while fearing she might get mad. What kind of question is that? Your body and soul are mine by the law of heaven as I'm your wife. Tell me if I'll not take advantage of your enticing body, then human girls will do. She asked with serious voice while crossing her arms. In front of him and her eyes were filled with a mischievous glint. I mean, aren't we going so fast? Shouldn't we start by holding hands first? Rio said while his face became red and he stammered while speaking. Leah forced herself to not laugh seeing his reaction. Last night there was a prisoner who tried to attack me and you saved me by killing him. She spoke with a gentle voice and helping him to recall what happened. Realization struck him as he remembered what happened. His face darkened at first, then it changed back to beetled as he remembered how he was crying in her embrace and how she hugged him to sleep while ruffling his crimson hair. Sorry, I just remembered now what happened, he said with a bittersweet smile and scratched the back of his head. Go wash your face. Yami would be bringing food soon. You had threw out all the food last night. Your stomach will start roaring if you don't eat soon. She spoke to him while going to dressing table. Okay. Rio went to wash his face while Leah was doing her hair. After some times, Rio came out of bathroom to find Yami was going out of room with the cart while food's bowls were placed on the portable table. They ate together while he kept peeping at her face time to time. He was afraid she would be mad for the last night. They finished the food together and Yami came back to clean up before leaving the couple together. Visit N0VL/B opening parenthesis I closing parenthesis opening parenthesis N closing parenthesis.com for the best novel reading experience. Will you not go for your training today? She asked him. My classes will be starting soon. They told us to report to school after we find our superior at shelter or we teleported to foreign shelters. I'm here for 28 days now. They would be thinking I'm either dead, lost or captured. Although there aren't anyone to worry about me, I still need to go back. Rio spoke with a bitterness in his voice. Who said there aren't anyone to worry about you? She narrowed her eyes at him as the room temperature lowered. I meant in other world. He gulped nervously as he was worried she would hit him again. That's better, she coldly said and continued. When are you going back then? Today, if that's fine. He probed her. When will you come back? She spoke with a hopeful glint in her eyes. Never, Rio joked while keeping a serious tone. When will you come back? She spoke with a hopeful glint in her eyes. Never, Rio joked while keeping a serious tone. Bang, 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 asterisk. 9 consecutive punches were gifted to Rio as his joke gone wrong. Ah, he rubbed his shoulder and looked at the source of violence. Say that again, she coldly glared at him. I mean I'll return in 1 to 2 months, he said to test the waters again. For some reason, he liked to tease her after their bonding became stronger last night. Bang, 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 asterisk. Ah, sorry, I was wrong, forgive me, Your Highness. Rio begged for mercy but the violence continued. She hit him with both hands while he placed his hands in a defensive manner to protect his head. Bang, 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 asterisk. I'll listen to my lord's decision and come back whenever she says, he said while groaning in pain from the rain of her fist which wasn't filled with mana but a normal fist attack. Her violent giveaway stopped after he spoke the words she wanted to listen to. She took out an old scroll from her storage-type beast soul and sat beside Rio. Try learning this skill from this magic scroll. Leah handed him a thick brown paper that was 3 times larger than his both palms. What is this? He scrunched his eyebrows as he inspected the scroll. It's a teleporting skill that will lead you to the home that you set. I'm not sure if it will work from another world, but if you mistakenly get teleported to another shelter in this world you can always use this to return back home. Leah said with a nonchalant voice. That's amazing, but how to use this? Rio looked at the scroll and he couldn't understand anything. Just drop a blood of yours and you will find out, she said while bringing out a needle. Okay, he took the needle from her hand and pricked his finger. A drop of blood fell on the scroll which spread to cover the whole scroll. It started hovering in front of them before burning in red flames. Rio's mouth became agape seeing what was taking place in front of him. An AI voice sounded in his mind. You have acquired the ancient astral recall technique. A string of information flooded in his mind and information floated on the floating screen. He checked the 2 new skill names that appeared in his profile skill section. Less than. Astral home fixation. Mark a location as the astral home. Mana. 90% of your total mana. Cooldown. 30 days. Astral recall. Teleport you back to astral home. Casting time. 3 seconds. Mana. 10. Cooldown. 1 hour. Greater than greater than greater than greater than. His eyes shone as he read this skill's information. He tried using the first skill and a white light enveloped the couch they were sitting on. Why did you use it here? Leah frowned at his action. Where should I use it then? He asked with questioning eyes. You could have set it in one of the rooms we have in the villa. She berated him. Is there a problem if I set it here? He asked in confusion. What if I'm changing and you teleported here? She asked with a beet red face. He coughed and said while mimicking her tone from earlier, what kind of question is that? Your body and soul are mine by the law of heaven as I'm your husband. Tell me if I'll not see your enticing body, then who will do? Visit n0vl/b opening parenthesis I closing parenthesis opening parenthesis n closing parenthesis.com for the best novel reading experience. Bang, 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 asterisk. The punches fell on him after that for a pretty long time. His screams were heard by the guards and Yami below the stairs. After some time passed, she accompanied him to the portal capsule in the castle. He acted like a good boy as if he learned his lessons this time to never tease this demoness. They stood near the portal that was like a medicine capsule. Come back as soon as possible or you know what will happen, Leah said to him with a threatening tone. Yes, Your Highness, I'll remember that, he said politely fearing she would beat him for another half hour before he leave. Good, she smiled. Does my lord have any other orders? He said while putting his hands on his chest and bowing. Take care of yourself and don't let them find out who you're, she said with worried eyes. Okay, I'll go now then. See you later, he said and started going towards the capsule while waving his hand without turning back. Am I forgetting something? He frowned while entering the portal capsule. He was forgetting something but he was unable to remember. What am I forgetting? What am I forgetting? He tapped his watch that rang with some notification sounds and synced with the portal as its door closed. Leah's eyes were filled with sorrow as she saw the capsule door closed. However, it opened again making a sound of capsule door opening and a figure came out. Her eyes widened as she saw the scene in front of her. Crimson-haired boy ran toward her before stopping in front of her and said, I forgot something. What? She asked with a puzzled face. She saw his face coming closer to hers which caused her heartbeat to beat faster. She closed her eyes as he kept getting closer. A hand wrapped around her alluring body as she found herself enveloped in a warm embrace. She could feel his hot breath on her neck as he hugged her. Rio hugged her as it filled both their body and mind with serenity. They were both resonating with a moment of bliss. So guys, this was part 1. Let me know if you are interested in novels like this. Also consider subscribing the channel.